What's up, guys? Welcome back to GoHamDiscGolf. I'm Big John, and this is going to be the review for the MVP Neutron Volt. And I'll show it to you guys right there and right here. Alright, this is MVP's first fairway driver. It's a control driver. MVP says about it, it's made for long, dependable lines. It's got a slow, forward penetrating fade, and it's also made for long, accurate placement shots. So, I agree with everything that MVP says about the Volt. It's something that I keep in my bag, and I'm going to overlay some shots of me actually throwing it here. And the other disc that you see me throwing is a Gold Line River from Latitude 64. So pay no mind to getting an email on my phone. I'm sorry about that, guys. But that's what you're going to see in the overlay right here. So it shows you a little bit of how it flies. Like I said, this is the first fairway driver from MVP. In a few days, in about a week, they're releasing the amp, which is going to be the complement to the Volt. The Volt is a stable fairway driver. It's it's meant to be straight. It's not overstable, but the amp is going to be understable, which is good because I believe that's a complement that the Volt needs. So let's go ahead and get into my rating system. I want you guys to remember that the rating system is used for how I throw the disc and how it works for me. I'm not a professional player. I'm an average player. I throw predominantly backhand. I only throw forehand when it's to get out of trouble or when it's the only option that I have. So remember that. Also, I'm rating, I can't stress enough, guys, I'm rating the disc for what I expect it to do for me and how I throw it. So don't forget that. For a high-speed turn, I rated an 8 out of 10 because if I throw this flat with right-handed backhand, if I throw it flat at 12 o'clock, it's going to turn maybe to 1 o'clock, but not much at all. I don't get much of an S-curve out of this disc at all, if any. Low speed fade, I gave it an 8 out of 10 as well. And that's because, like I said, if I throw it at 12, it turns to about 1. When it finishes, it's only at about 10:30 to 11 o'clock when it hits the ground. So if you're looking for a very straight fairway driver, check out the Volt. It definitely does that for me, and it probably will do the same thing for you. Glide, I also gave it an 8 out of 10, and that's because when I throw this guy low to the ground, probably about 5 or 6 feet off the ground, it holds that line, and it glides very well. Also, if I throw it very high on almost a spike hyzer, it does level itself out and still glide for a good amount of distance. One thing I'll mention, and I'm not going to lie to you guys and say that I throw fairway drivers 400 to 450 feet. I'm not going to BS you guys there. When I throw fairway drivers, I only flirt with 325 feet. I use this guy for anywhere between 285 to 315 feet. I think I maxed it out at right around 340, but that was just cranking the mess out of this disc. Next is True Flight. I gave it a 9 out of 10 because this guy does exactly what you tell it to do without fail. But that's something you have to be careful with, because if you mean to throw this straight and you release it flat, it'll do that. But if you mean to throw it flat and you accidentally give it a little bit of a hyzer or a little bit of an anhyzer, then it's going to follow that line. So you got to be real careful, because True Flight can be a great thing, but it can also hurt you if you're not ready for it. Backhand throws, I gave it a 9 out of 10. Just because I'm a backhand thrower, this thing felt great coming out of my hand with a backhand, and then it mixes in with True Flight, because when I throw it backhanded, it still does exactly what I tell it to do. Forehand, I gave it a 5 out of 10 because, like I said, I don't throw forehand drives unless it's my only option, but I consider it to be a disc that a forehand predominantly thrower player could do some great things with this. So I gave it a 5 out of 10 right in the middle because I didn't want to take away from it too much, but I still wanted to show that it could do what you tell it to do if you're experienced throwing forehand. Tomahawks, I gave it a 5 out of 10 because I have other discs that can do the job better. It didn't feel that great coming out of my hand on a Tomahawk, but I don't want to discount it just because I might not be the best at throwing a Tomahawk, especially with this disc. Thumbers, I gave a 7 out of 10. And I gave it a 7 out of 10 because it still works with a thumber. It does the job really well. But just like with the Mission, if you guys remember what I said about that, it needs a lot of room to do its flight when you throw a thumber. It's going to do it, but it needs a lot of room to get that big sweeping arc. So remember that if you pick this up for thumbers, give it room to do its job. For touch or finesse shots, I gave it a 6 out of 10 because when I throw a touch or finesse shot, I'm not throwing very far up with that. And there's other discs that I like to do touch or finesse shots with. I like ions and anodes for that, but it still does it fairly well. There's just other discs that can do it better. And then just general feel of the disc, it feels so good, guys. I gave it a 9 out of 10. My fingers fit into this perfectly for a power grip. It comes out of the hand so well on backhand drives. And just generally, it's got a good weight to it. It's got the whole MVP gyro system, which transfers most of the weight of the disc to the outside of the rim, which they say gives you more speed. I can agree with that. It seemed to be faster than a river. But yeah, just generally, it feels really good, guys. The only time it didn't feel that great was, like I said, when I was throwing tomahawks and when I was throwing forehand drives. And that's just because I'm not an experienced forehand thrower. I can't throw any disc perfectly like that unless it's something I've done repeatedly, like throwing a flick on a very hard forehand hyzer. That's about the only time I can do anything good with a forehand. So that gives it a 74 out of 100. So in that case, the river is not gonna take the place of the Volt in my bag. I was talking about that when I did the river review. The river was such a good disc that it might, take the spot of the Volt. Well, that's not the case, guys. The river scored a 71 out of 100, which is a great score for me, for my rating system. But 74 is a little bit better, and for that reason, I'm keeping the Volt in my bag. So, if you guys have not checked out a Volt, go ahead and check it out. I can't say too much else about it, guys. It's a great disc. Inbounds has it on their flight chart, which, if you guys don't know, Inbounds has the most comprehensive flight charts out there. They have every disc in the world listed, and then they're constantly adding new discs. So I'll put the flight chart for the Volt right up in here, and you guys can check that out. So I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to go ham.